Hey everybody, welcome to Shit I Love with Jason Stewart. This is my first husband and wife guest. I have the lovely actress Ellen Crawford and her husband Mike Genovese. Both of them had played husband and wife on ER. And now my show, this is the second time that we had Lydiaon. How do you say Lily's last name? Marie, I don't want to say it wrong. We had Lily, who also was part of the supporting cast.
And she's directing
of ER and directing tons of things, and a Directors Guild nominee.
Yes.
For one of the shows that she directed.
And she's married to a musician.
And I adore her.
Married to Boney James.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know who her husband was.
Yeah, Boney James, the big jazz saxophonist artist.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So first of all, how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 35 years last October.
Oh my God.
I know, we should count it like dog years, right? Because we're two actors.
But where did you guys meet?
We're only laughing because it's very long.
We met in Washington, D.C. Ellen was doing a show at the Arena Stage that I had previously done in St. Louis at the Loretta Hilton Repertory Theater. And a friend of mine who was connected with the original production was in the production in D.C. at the Arena. And she and Ellen got to be friends. And I met Ellen through our mutual friend. And then
I was between my junior and senior year at Carnegie Mellon's.
Oh, wow.
Play was directed by Charlie Haid.
Oh yeah, from
Hill Street
Blues.
Yeah.
Wonderful actor who's also had a very big television career as a director, also in addition to acting.
And then Ellen, I moved out of D.C. and Ellen went back to school, and we ended up running into each other off and on in the Midwest theater circuit, St. Louis, Kansas City.
This happens
Chicago.
every time I'm on the air.
And I've heard this in your interviews.
Yes, I have to stop. I mean, my email is like completely off, and I did that. All right.
You're a very popular guy.
Yes, I am.
Don't make apologies for
Okay, but I'm supposed to turn it off. I'm the technician. I'm the host, the producer. I do everything, and I just think that's great. So you guys fell in love. And you did theater together.
Eventually.
I mean, I think he thought I was a little crazy at first, and
well, you probably are.
I probably was. I was.
And he's just as
the
crazy.
first time I met her,
still in college.
When she came to where I was living, she ended up eating like a whole bag of Fritos. And you remember there was a cheese dip they used to make, Rotel chili and Velveeta cheese.
And that was crazy?
And she ate the entire thing all by herself.
Well, I just wish I had one guy that I met that was just that crazy. Just that little thing. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, I think I also was. Well, I was having dating issues at the time, which I talked to our friend about. So he had to listen to that, and I was sort of young, and I had. Anyway, that's probably where.
But what's really cool is the first thing I want to talk about, of course, is ER. We're going to get that out.
Okay.
So you were on ER for how many years?
Well, I had the first line of the pilot. So I was on it.
You played Nurse Lydiaon, right?
I did, although she was originally the pilot, Nurse Lydiaon Woodward, but then Lydia Woodward, who I was named for, became a writer-producer on the show, so they changed my last name to Wright.
Which is okay, because nobody called you Nurse Wright, right? More Lydia?
They pretty much would call me Lydia or hey.
Or maybe they thought you got divorced or something and married somebody else.
Oh, that was in the script. I had clearly been divorced and was kind of off men by the time I met this cop played by Mike Genovese.
We did 12 episodes, right?
And I did about 10 years and then took some time off, and then John Wells wrote me into the finale as kind of an homage to the first scene. What was funny about that was it was fun to be all together. We had a lot more kind of the old style of all being in the same place at the same time. It was kind of like a reunion. And the funny part was that it was just as if you kind of didn't see my shifts for the last few years.
Can I ask
there was no reference to where I just.
This was your choice to leave the show? It's a comfortable question to ask.
It was. And then they were using the nurses differently as well. And there were other things I wanted to do. But
what is it like to be on a show for 10 years? I mean, first of all, such a nice feeling to know that you have a job.
Yes.
Right?
The best.
And a parking spot.
At a parking spot. And what was really great about it was, well, there were many things that were great. First of all, it was great being in a show that was history making. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize until I saw the pilot how it was going to be that good. And of course, Rod Holcomb's a wonderful director, and curiously gave me my first job in LA. My first 24 hours in LA, he cast me in film. So it was a few years before we ran into each other again. But at any rate, it was great to be in that. But also, I had never had, because I had been an actor all that time, I had never had a time when I knew I would have work coming up and I have this many months off and I can take a vacation with my family.
You can be a person and know that your bills are paid.
That's right.
I mean, it's like an insane kind of feeling. The only time I knew that for me was when I was on My Wife and Kids. And I remember when they gave me the parking pass and they said, "Oh, here." And I said, "Thank you so much." And I went into the bathroom and just started to cry.
Exactly.
I was so emotional.
And so but it was funny because I auditioned for a movie of the week and I ran into the guy who played my husband in the first TV episode I got when I came to LA, which was Newhart. But at any rate, he had been doing a series. And I ran into him and he said, "Oh, you're auditioning for this?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm supposed to go to Italy with my husband and, so I don't know how it's going to work out." I said, "But I try to travel during hiatus because when am I going to have a job again when I can actually know?"
Exactly. We'd like to actually have a life and do stuff.
So he said, "Oh, wow, I should have done that." He said, because every hiatus I would work, and now they've ended my show, and now I can't do that anymore. I'm too scared to do it. So I'm really happy I did that. I took a lot of time with my family on hiatus. And
you probably recognize like crazy because in those days, I mean, when that show there was only 4 networks, or maybe 6.
We got
4 to 6.
There was a big, huge thing in Variety because we got a 40 share, which was unheard of, and certainly would be unheard of now.
Oh,
because with all of the different platforms and all this, but
she got recognized by Japanese tourists in the Uffizi in Florence.
I did. It's true. And
just that we use the word platforms now.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all over a certain age, and we say platforms like it was not, because 10 years ago, platforms, those are shoes that I wore in the 70s.
That's right. And I'm still wearing them today. But yeah.
No, honey, that's a wedgie.
Oh, that's a wedgie. That's right. Okay, sorry. It's
okay. I know my fashion.
I know you do. Better than I do, I'm sure. But it was funny. And I knew, I'd run into people from England and Canada, and you expect that. But then we were on a Vaporetto in...
a Vaporetto?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I don't know what it is, but it
Venice.
sounds great.
It's like a bus on...
A water bus.
A water bus.
Oh, yeah.
And
sounds much better the way
it sounds much more romantic.
Oh, my God, yeah.
But, and this woman came up and was saying how much she loved me on ER, and I said, "Where are you from?" And she said, "Slovakia." And then I knew we were everywhere.
Because in those days, it wasn't like we couldn't find out from social media what was going on,
No, yeah.
and you had so many big stars come in. Were you on the years that Sally Field was on?
Yes, she was just terrific and lovely, generous person.
Yeah.
It's always wonderful when you've admired someone for so long and they come on and it's like, you're exactly who I thought you would be.
Hard worker, wanting to do a great job.
Yes.
And we were just saying before we started that most of the really big stars and the big successful actors that we've worked with are always the nicest. I remember when I was doing Birth of a Nation, a lot of the younger kids who played people that worked on the plantation were so, shocked that I talked to everybody and I said, "Why shouldn't I?" got so many emails and nice things, and I thought that's what I was taught, is to always be kind and generous, and always know that, everybody's just trying to do their job, whether it's the gal that works in, craft services, or it's one of the producers who's a bigwig on the show. I treat everybody the same way.
It's a collaborative art.
Yes, it is. You can't do things without the rest. So when I talked to Lily, what I asked her was, there was a clear division between the regulars and then the supporting cast. There was a clear division to me always watching the show, because they would be in the front credits and then the supporting cast would be what we call in the biz the recurring guest stars. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And was there any was that weird? I mean, did anybody want to move up? And anybody go, "God, I really want"? Did anybody move up from that?
Everybody wants to move up.
Of course.
Of course.
But it's a weird...
Yeah, I mean,
It's an uncomfortable question, but I'm always
no. It's
I'm fascinated
I would
by
say,
that.
and I would say particularly at the beginning, we were going up against Chicago Hope, as you recall.
Oh yeah,
the same night.
Really good show too.
Then they moved up to Monday night, and we stayed Thursday night. And I was glad because not only was it a very good show, but it also, frankly, employed a lot of my friends because it had a lot of guest stars, just as we did. And but at that time, you might recall, they had more names that were known.
Oh yeah, they had Oscar winners and movie stars: Mandy Patinkin, Christine Laddie, Adam
we had
Harkin.
I mean.
You had George Clooney. Who's that?
No, they didn't know because he was like a millionaire from all of his failed pilots.
Right, but he was still like, who was George Clooney?
People didn't really know.
No, and he was like it was like a joke around town. He was like the Susan Lucci of pilots.
He was.
And
Anthony Edwards was known as Goose, from Top Gun, but he was like the biggest name we had. And I do recall someone on the crew going, "Oh yeah, Chicago Hope's the one to be on because that's got all the stars." I don't think they went on to do the series actually, but they didn't want to take a chance. I think on either show they didn't build either of us a hospital until we hit, and we shot at Linda Vista Hospital, and in the basement in the old ER, abandoned ER, and we took turns like shooting in that hospital, and it was. But I have to say that what I think was unique about ER, besides the kind of fast-paced little vignettes, was that you brought this up one time, I think, Michael, when you were saying that you felt that you got to know everyone through the workplace. You got to know about them personally.
It's a strange thing for an actor because we don't get that. I always say guesting on a show is like being invited to a friend's house for dinner. Mm-hmm. Even though you know them, they're your friends, it's still, did you ever feel comfortable after 12 episodes? How did you feel? Did you hang out a lot because she was on the show? Did you come to visit and hang with her?
Yeah. No, I always felt at home whenever, she was around, and I would show up, have lunch or something like that. Yeah, it was.
Did you have to audition, or were you just given the part?
I was just given it.
I love that.
Because we
tell the story.
We were supposed to audition for the pilot, but then I picked up the pilot with Donald Belisario that shot in Maui, called Crawford. And
that was a big one, huh?
Yeah.
He had to be a series regular on the one show that did.
Oh, it always, isn't it? I've been with you, honey. I've been there.
On Maui, too.
Yes.
He had it
so she went into audition by herself, got the role of the nurse, and then about halfway through the first season, they started looking around for, character relationships and plot things, and they said, nurses and cops. And they called me up and said, "Do you want to do this cop?" I said, "Sure."
And I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I hadn't asked about it. It was just something they came up with.
And they knew him because he was...
They knew us even before, through our work.
But isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
I
really
love that they had the confidence in you, and they knew you, and they respected you, and also, please, when you work together, there's already a relationship. Mm-hmm. And you guys have done... I mean, when I saw this list of the theater... I was, because it's my fantasy. I would love to do more theater. And it's my fantasy. And some of my favorite play, The Cocktail Hour, which is a J.R. Gurney play, which is so wonderful. Of course, on Golden Pond, which is just, man. Was that recently? You guys are too...
We were too young, but we,
How old are they supposed to be?
Golden Pond was about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Cocktail Hour.
But I've been playing old people since I was in 4th grade, so it's...
Cocktail Hour was a couple of years ago. Both of those were up in...
Because they know both... they're not supposed to be in their 80s, are they?
No.
I think they did when they moved the ages older when Katharine Hepburn and Jane Fonda wanted to do it. Yeah. And I think it's supposed to be... I mean, I hate to say it. Is it late 50s or early 60s?
No, I think it's 70s.
Oh, it is? Okay.
70s.
Yeah. And those were both at the theater up in Lewiston, Maine, the public theater.
God, can you take me with you anytime?
Oh, it's really
Could
fun.
I go?
She gets to eat lobster
every day of my life. It's my favorite food.
Oh, God. Yeah, but you get to work on plays and just be in a place where people want to see theater. Yeah. How did you get involved in this whole thing?
Well, that was a funny thing because it was actually because of ER.
Of course.
The theater in Portland.
because
Lewis,
in Lewiston, the public theater, wonderful people, and I got to say about them is that they came from. What they do is they have a community that supports them, whether you're a cardiologist or you're a knife sharpener. People want to come, and they make it affordable for the community. They have programs for the children and the students.
But these are also not these crazy musicals that everywhere you go.
No, they don't.
How many times can you see Hairspray? How many times can you say Grease?
What?
You've got Virginia Woolf, Love Letters, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare, Old Times. Then you get is that the Pinter play, Old Times?
Yeah, that's the one we.
The front page. I mean, come on, what's more fun than that? There's just great parts, and some of the Hostage I think I've heard of.
Brendan Behan. I actually did that twice. I did it with Michael early on in Missouri, and then I did it with Jack O'Brien at the old Global.
Well, if you don't bring me with you to something, now that I've got you in my house, I've known you because we work together and volunteer, all of us at SAG-AFTRA, to help our union, and we've all volunteered for years. And I'm going to stalk you. That's all.
Oh, I'd love that. So I have to tell you how we got to Maine, which is that they were looking for a fundraiser. They were going to do love letters. And
for those at home that don't know, Love Letters is the play that's written completely in letters. You read the play. A lot of times they use two celebrities to read it, and it's a beautiful play about how these two people fall in love by love letters. For you kids that are listening, letters are emails.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Also written in cursive, which you also don't do, but normally letters. But
you're right. I don't think they'll even know what that means.
Yeah, that's right. You write in loopy things instead of printing. But
it's like this thing called a pen or a pencil. It's an old thing, and I don't know where you find them anymore.
As opposed to one swear word after the other.
Right.
So at any rate, they
were
looking. I think they were trying to figure out what to do, and I went to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and so one of the guys working on ER administratively was at that time I think president of our alumni association. John Wells went to Carnegie Mellon also, and right after me I think, and so Dan Green said, well, and both of the artistic directors who were at that time a married couple. Now they're still the artistic directors, so they aren't married, but they're still very good friends. But I digress. Anyway, he said to them, they were from Carnegie Mellon, and so they put out the word, and he said, you should get Mike and Ellen, because right then our characters were kind of hot and heavy on ER. He was like, oh, okay. Well, they weren't watching a lot of TV. They were busy producing theater. So they went back to their board, which has all these doctors, specifically cardiologists. They've got a big center there. And they said, you can get them, get them, because they had been watching ER.
Of course.
And so we came in and we did Love Letters, and it was a big success. And then they went on to, from time to time, inviting us to do shows there, and sometimes singly, and sometimes we could do them, and sometimes we couldn't. I did The Belle of Amherst there,
which is a beautiful play about Emily
Dickinson,
the writer. Who directed it for you?
It was Christopher, who is one of the artistic directors, directed it. I did it 3 times.
It's a one-person show. That's just how.
And I learned it all before I went there because
you have to.
Yeah, and I was surprised how connected I was to it because I read it and thought, oh, this would be an interesting challenge. But the more I did it, the more I felt, there are just some roles that feel like this is my role. Mm-hmm. And so I wound up doing it another time there because that was also a fundraiser. And then I did it for a full run there, and I did it again in Spokane. And anyway, every time
once it becomes something that's under your belt, is it easy to redo the play after you hadn't done it in a year?
It's easier to learn it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one of those people that I learn something, then it's gone, and then I could pick it back up again. But Michael did. You worked there after that. There were a couple of plays we couldn't do that we were offered, but he did.
What did you have to turn down? I'm going to die.
I had to turn down. You turned down Skylight, I think. You couldn't do that.
But then you turned down one about the president's wife.
That was
a bodyguard.
Oh no, that was in Denver. I did turn that down, but it was a different theater.
Oh,
it was the one that it's also a one-woman show. Mm.
You'll remember. You'll remember. Don't worry.
Educating Rita?
Educating Rita, thank you.
That's a one-person show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And no,
No, I
it
don't
wasn't
think so.
Educating
No.
All right,
Rita.
okay. I don't
It
know.
was the other one. It was the same actress. That's why you thought of it.
Julie
did.
Walters?
Julie Walters did it, I think.
Brilliant,
both of
brilliant
those
actress.
plays. But anyway,
So tell
and
me what it's
Orphans
like.
we did.
Tell me what it's like to do Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with your husband. How many times have you done it? And it's one of my favorite all-time plays. You know,
It's ours too.
yeah. I mean, it's just it didn't win the Pulitzer and the Tony and the Oscar. I mean, it won so many things. What was it like to do that play? And was it hard on your marriage, or was it just totally the funnest thing ever? For those who don't know, Virginia Woolf was written by
Edward
Edward
Albee.
Albee.
Edward Albee, and Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton did it in the film, and on Broadway was Uta Hagen, and I'm not sure who did it originally.
Oh, on Broadway, Arthur
Yeah.
Hiller.
Arthur Hiller, and then
Not Arthur
and
Hiller.
then
Arthur Hill.
Arthur Hill, and then a big redo with John Lithgow and Glenda Jackson, and then again with Kathleen Turner and the guy that does, the guy that was the clown also.
Oh, and Bill.
Bill Irwin.
Irwin,
Yeah, and Carrie Coon did it also. It sort of made her career. So most people that do that play, it changes their career because the roles are so powerful.
Mm.
You know, what's that like?
Well, people have asked me, how did you survive that, being married and doing that play? And my answer is usually it's like having really good sex with your husband. Because I think...
Did it make really great sex, honestly? Did it create a sort of... I shouldn't even ask that.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think the other thing...
Because when you're doing your craft and all of a sudden you're flying, you go home, you're like, it's like that scene in 6 Degrees of Separation. They said, why did you bring that guy into this house? He said, because we were talking, I had a great night, and you guys go home and you're with somebody, and I wanted to be with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And people who have been single on and off, like myself, quite a bit, I so understood that.
Well, and the thing that... It's interesting because we did it at San Diego Rep.
Oh, wow, that's a great theater.
Yeah, it was really nice, and we had a great time. But we kind of weren't done with it. And
when you say you weren't done with it, meaning you still wanted to, people don't understand that in a play, you continue to explore.
Yes. And we were exploring, but it's just like we loved it so much. We were like, where else can we do it?
So
There's no end. I mean, in a play like that, there's no end to what you discover. And San Diego was a peculiar circumstance because I had 10 days to learn the lines.
Oh, dear God.
Because they had somebody else cast who got injured and pulled out. And so...
Man, that's rough.
And so I came in with 10 days to go before first preview. And you talk about two people glued to the hip. I mean... There wasn't a time during the day we weren't running lines. I mean, it didn't matter. You know, if she's on the toilet and I'm in the shower, we're running lines.
What a dump! What's that from?
Yes.
What's that from? What a dump! Whatever love wants. Because I want to play George. I'm now old enough to play.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I'm watching you, and I don't know you as well, Mike, and I'm thinking that in this relationship, you're the more dominant one in some ways, and she's a little more passive. Am I right?
But not in that play.
No, it switches. So for you, this is a bit of a stretch to play this part. And because I want to start working on it again. I want to see if I can do it in Larry Moss's masterclass. And I want to see what you think. Because for me, I'm also the dominant one in most of my relationships. So how do you play this guy that's, by the beginning of the play, he looks like he's a wuss, and by the end, he's the one that wins.
He won an LADCC award, by the way.
Which is the Los Angeles
Drama Critics.
One of the things that happened was because I was coming in with such a boatload of energy, 10 days learning the lines, and Ellen finally had to say at some point, you have to back off because I'm the one that has to be strong here. Back off. Because I was like...
A great note. Well, it was more fear.
Well,
just crazy.
Yeah.
Of not having the time.
Well, and because you sense that energy about him anyway, he comes into a room and it's like
he has a very masculine, very guy. I'm in charge thing.
Over the course of, so you're talking 10 days, then you're talking roughly 4-week run with previews and opening. So we only had about a little over 5 weeks to play this thing. And the other 2 actors, very good. We got to explore, we got to play, but we weren't done with it yet. And
well, because you basically just learned the play. That people don't understand that, because to me, I talk to people who do theater in Los Angeles and they do 3 shows a week. I said that's crazy. I mean, 3 shows a week. Then after 6 weeks, you're basically, that's the rehearsal, preview, and opening week, and then you're done.
Yeah,
and it's like I want to do a play for 3 months.
That's the fun part.
And so Ellen had the connection with Noah Wiley, who is the
artistic producer of the Blank.
The Blank Stage, Theater, which is right here in Los Angeles on Santa Monica.
And so she contacted Noah, and Noah worked it out so that we got in for a nice run.
Oh man!
And an extension over at the Blank.
God damn it! I wish I would have known
We
this.
could have been going on even longer, but the people who are playing Nick and Honey were like, we need more hours in our day jobs. So because it was still selling out. The thing that was interesting about it is that at the time when I talked to Noah, he said, our mission statement is pretty much about doing new plays. He said, but if we do an old play, it's like with a new twist on it.
What was the twist?
And then he read the reviews and he said, oh, well, I kind of see that you actually have that.
What is it? What was the twist?
What we didn't try to do something terribly different. We just felt that these people truly love each other. If they don't love each other, there's no reason to spend 3 hours, and that's if you do it with a clip. And
clip meaning
add a clip.
Yeah.
Fast.
If you do it as he kind of writes it, to do it,
there's a pace to it.
It still takes
smart, erudite people.
But it's still, with intermissions, a 3-hour show.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no reason to spend time with these people.
But for those who are listening, if you ever have a chance to see Virginia Woolf, 3 hours, it's 3 minutes. It's like August Osage County. It's one of the most brilliant piece of writing, in the theater. I saw the Kathleen Turner, Bill Irwin one, and I have to say, I love both of them. But I thought they did it for comedy, and I didn't care for it as much because it was done too much for laughs.
Well, it's a funny thing when
I think the laughs come from. I'm a funny person, so I never have to work on laughs.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's not what I need to do. So, for me, that was wrong, and there was a sort of lightness to it that I didn't like. Whereas Glenda Jackson, when I saw Glenda Jackson, and because I'm a big fan of the play, as you can see, John Lithgow do it, there was a certain. They're both very controlled people.
Albee directed that production.
Did he?
My friend was the stage manager on that.
And I thought that I loved them both, but I thought Glenda Jackson was very wrong. She wasn't sloppy.
I didn't see it.
She wasn't. She's just not sloppy. She wasn't. This is a woman who's sloppy and sexual, and I didn't see that from her.
Well, it's a funny thing because
a boob has to be falling out of her dress, and she doesn't know, and she'll just put it right back. That's the kind of woman she is. It seems to me.
It's a funny thing though, because the film, which is a terrific film,
Burton and Taylor, that was the first one, so I was ruined because. I think that was their relationship.
But there were cuts, of course, in the film. Mike Nichols directed it, who was known for comedy, who went completely the other way with all drama. I have to say that.
But it still was funny.
Yeah, in the first scene, for example, when they first come back, if you look at it, they're playing, and it's
get the door. Get the door.
Really,
you get the door.
It's funny because they're playing with each other, and it also gives you a place to go. Because if you don't see that these people play with each other and they love each other, you have nowhere to go for the next.
But there's a difference between playing with each other and playing for laughs.
Oh yeah. No, it's the comedy has to come out of the reality, of course. And then as it gets darker and darker and darker and deeper, you get in. But I think what seemed different to him was that they really talked about how much these people love each other and how difficult it is.
My sister came up from Florida and saw the production in San Diego. And at the same time she was in San Diego, a drama writing teacher that she had been working with was also visiting his children in San Diego. And I had met the man before down in Florida where my sister lives. They saw the play together. And after the play, he was very quiet, very, very unusually quiet, and didn't say much about, and we all sort of hung out afterwards. It wasn't until my sister got back to Florida and she asked him what he thought of the play. And he said, how did he put it?
He said, I finally realized after seeing that production of Virginia Woolf that my parents really did love each other. And I always say, if I never did anything else in my career, that moment of having somebody having the realization, and he's an elderly man. He was not a young man.
Well, sometimes you have to be older in order to see back, don't you think?
And for him to say that that's what he got out of our play, that he understood that about his parents, they really did love each other, was one of the greatest gifts I've ever had as an actor. Hearing that.
I love that.
You're talking about two people over the course of 3 hours with what appears to be this vicious attack on each other. It's all about supporting each other.
Do you believe the old wise tale that the play was written about two men? See,
well,
I do, and I'll tell you why.
Well, Edward Albee says no.
He says no, but I know why he says no too. I can tell you. He's since passed recently. If anybody is listening, he's
one
passed.
of my greatest moments. Ellen and I were called in to do. We were the readers at auditions for Twins for a play called Me, Myself, and I that he had written. And he couldn't find identical actor twins in New York because they all live out here. And so he had to come out here and over to the Mark Taper and audition all of these good-looking young male twin, so that he could. And Ellen and I were playing, the mother and father.
Tyne Daly.
But one of my greatest moments, standing.
Tyne Daly, what?
I think they did the roles
Tyne
they
Daly?
were already cast.
Tyne Daly and who else?
Like Brian Bedford.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
But they called us in to read their roles in these auditions.
Yeah.
So we spent 2 days with Edward Albee.
Wow!
But one of my greatest moments.
And he knows that you did Virginia Woolf.
No, we didn't talk about it.
No.
Oh God!
No. Standing at adjoining urinals with Edward Albee, sort of talking about hemorrhoids and prostates. And,
So just to let you know, Mike is now standing there. Because you can't see, he's holding his penis without holding it, just in the air, and it seemed very long and big, and it almost near his belly button, which was sort of odd.
He was excited because he was with it.
And he was doing a pantomime of what had happened with him and Edward Albee. This is my thinking on this. So Edward Albee is a gay man of a certain age. And same as Tennessee Williams, who wrote most of his plays about these women that were almost like transgender women, almost. Blanche Dubois, certainly, Maggie and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Brick, the idolized gay man who Paul Newman played.
Clearly.
Yeah, all these parts that he did in these films. I think that he just was not willing to admit to himself that that's who he was really writing about. Because it's so complicated being a gay person of what he had to deal with. And if it wasn't for people like him, I would not be able to be here to talk on this show and say this to you as a person, just to be able to let go of that shame, let go of that self-hate. And the idea that someone would say, oh, his greatest play ever is written about two men, to him would be a slight. And it would be, oh, I can't do that. I can only write this because this is who I am. But to me, the greatest thing to do now is to do that. And if they ever do it, I'm playing Martha.
Well, I will tell you
because
something.
I'm much more right for Martha than I am for. I'm much more right for Martha than I am for.
I usually don't talk about this because I knew
she did it.
how upset he got when people would do
parodies.
Unauthorized productions. But this was literally. We learned the lines. It was more like a reading, one night only in an apartment, okay? This is when I was, my verse, wait, I'm going to sneeze.
It's a sneeze. It's going to become a sneeze.
Bless you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's
my very first job right out of high school was the original Chicago Company of Hair.
Oh, wow.
And there were a few of us that were real. There were some that were musicians, and there were some that were like street kids, and they're, they've
Whole
cast a bunch.
mishmash.
But there were a few of us that were deeply involved in acting. Even I was just out of high school, but I had been deeply devoted to acting, and we got together because we loved the play of Virginia Woolf, and we learned all of the the whole play, and we did it in all of the rooms of Joey Mantegna and Arlene Vrel's apartment.
Joe Mantegna?
Yeah.
And Joey played...
Joe, of course, people know him from Criminal Minds, a big David Mamet actor.
Well, he was probably, 22 or 23 at the time.
But he and Arlene were both also in the company.
They were in the company, and...
That's his wife?
Yeah. They've been together all that time.
Is she still an actress?
I don't think she's been acting for a while. They were, that's when they first, I think they knew each other from high school contests or something. They had met, but they got together in that production. And they've been together ever since. And so it was, Joey was playing George.
After a 2-show day.
Back-to-back shows on Saturday night. We did it actually in the real time, because it was kind of dawn when we finished, because we did it in their apartment after.
And you played Honey.
I played Honey.
Which I could see you playing Honey so
I
well.
was too young. I was 18, so I was already...
She's supposed to be like 25, right?
26, so I was 8 years too young for Honey. That's how young I was. And my friend Blake Anderson played Nick, and Martha was played by Andre DeShield.
Andre DeShield, how do I know that name?
He played the Wiz in the Wiz. He was
a black man.
Yes.
Very overweight, big.
No. Very elegant.
Oh, wait. He played.
He was Snake.
Yes. And he was the Lion in the Wiz.
No, he was the Wiz in the Wiz.
Oh, the Wiz. Okay,
in the white suit.
I'm mixing it up. Yes.
Okay. In the white suit.
Okay.
And he also was.
So what was that like?
Was the guy who does the snake in Ain't Misbehaving the
So you guys did not bring that up to Edward Albee, I'm guessing.
No.
By the urinal.
Well, and he has to get approval to. We got approval to do our production because he has to approve all the casting, but I don't think he put it together.
Andre
he would not have. No, well,
but he wouldn't even let. He recently didn't want black people to play that,
right? Yeah.
Too, because he says these are white people from a certain time. So
yeah.
And
and then he approved. He personally, or his agent, I don't know, had you approve
every single production ever done.
Photo and resume was submitted by casting. Whoever was casting, can these people do this role? Yes, no, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so so this, nobody tried to get the rights. We were doing it in somebody's living room with our friends and family. My mother came up from Normal to watch me, and she was up.
My mother never would have done that.
And
honey, it's not happening. That's what she would say. I'm not going. I can't. I got to do. I'm doing my hair, and my nails are not right.
I threw up on cue. I really peeled the bottle. I was into it, but But at any rate...
How did you throw up on cue?
I don't know. Except that I wasn't a big drinker, and then he gave me...
you drank real stuff?
Yeah, here's the thing, is that Andre wanted to try it with real... Which I will never, ever do again.
Yeah, so how did they let a gay man play? Did he play it as a woman?
No, it wasn't they let.
He just did it.
He
did
it.
We called him Marty.
Oh, so he did it as a man.
He did it as a man.
Wow. And what was the experience like?
It was, first of all, you have all your friends and your family there, and we were using multiple rooms, kind of like we did when we did.
Wait, what year was this? This would have been in
69 or 70.
So this would have been quite
probably
shocking.
1970. Well, not to our company.
But to other people at that time.
But the other people weren't there.
It's a black man, am I correct?
Yeah.
Playing a woman.
Yeah,
who's a gay man.
But we were just doing it for our friends.
I understand, but it's still quite shocking for that time.
I guess at that time...
I'm now in love with the two of you.
The people in that company, it wasn't shocking.
No, I understand that, but remember 1969, that was the year... This was in Chicago?
Yeah.
In New York, that was the year in 69 and 70 when the Black Cat here in Los Angeles, when they had the riots, and of course the Stonewall in New York in 69.
Yeah.
So that was a very volatile time. Yeah. You guys were like cutting, and you guys didn't think it was a big deal. I love it.
Well, it wasn't... yeah, it was just, we just got together and learned the play and had fun doing it, and all of our friends and family. Had we done it in a real theater, first of all, we wouldn't have been allowed to do it.
It would have been caused a whole thing.
Well, we wouldn't have been given the rights, and we were all good union members. Even then, I was a brand new union member, but it was. I mean, I loved that play. You're
making me want to do something bold and crazy. Like, I've always wanted to play Martha. Maybe that's what I should do.
Well, like I say, it's not like I didn't talk about it a lot because we weren't really doing the play. We were doing it for our friends. Like you do a recitation in somebody's living room, except we acted it all out.
Was he great?
Yeah, of course he was. Andre's a wonderful actor.
Oh, Andre.
He's a fantastic actor.
Did you see it?
No, but I've seen Andre, and Andre is, I mean, he's a performer that just, sort of
grabs you.
He's a force of nature.
By the throat. So let's talk about George Clooney. So you,
speaking of forces of nature,
of course, work with him on ER.
I did.
And then you were on Suburbicon. I have a friend, Nancy Daly, that was in
that.
She played
Nancy.
Matt Damon's secretary.
That kept growing and growing. She was wonderful in that.
Her voice and her look.
Oh God, she was perfect.
What did you play in it?
I was like one of the neighbors.
You were. I remember seeing you.
Yeah. So
terrific. And how did that come about?
It came about, actually, I think I was submitted, and then I went in to read for it, and
was he there?
No, he wasn't. They were putting everybody on tape with one. It's the brightest light I've ever seen.
So just to let you guys know, we don't meet anybody anymore. We either put ourselves on tape at home, or we go into a room and put ourselves with tape, and we don't even meet the casting. We just meet the assistant.
So the casting director.
And soon we're going to walk into the room. It's going to be a robot, and then.
The casting director was there. Casts all the Coen Brothers films. She's really wonderful. And
Terry Taylor?
No, of course. Now
Ellen Chenoweth?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I'm
both brilliant casting directors from the day who just really know their jobs.
Well, like actors, which is
just
nice.
Yeah,
and
people that you really want to get in front of.
And so I did the thing. First, we were like reading all of these parts because they weren't sure what they were doing with anybody, and then they called me back in with her, and he said, "Well, George was so happy to see you, and just wants to put you in the film. He hasn't. It's just a matter of deciding where." And so
what a lovely thing, yeah. And that was a big movie.
Yeah, and so that was really fun, and we had a ball because we got. It was funny because I thought you work with somebody for 5 years, and I mean. He was a joker, and everybody's.
Yes, that's his rep.
That's
yes,
his thing that he would put Sergio Lupo on all the phones, and he went and he'd answer, and yes, I was just telling the ET online interview that he would when I was getting.
Did we say this on tape? Did we say that Entertainment Tonight is doing a big piece on
Entertainment Online? Yeah,
online is doing, which is even more than on the show itself. Honestly, the people more see it online these days about the supporting cast of ER.
Yes, so we've all been doing interviews, which is really.
I love
fun.
that. I have an experience with George Clooney also. I did a series with him called Sunset Beat. It was done by the people who did 21 Jump Streets, where he played a cop who was a rock band at night.
On a motorcycle.
Yes, on a motorcycle. And he had the long hair.
Yeah.
And I played Marty, the nightclub owner, talked like this. And Marty, it's my beginning of being an annoying Jew with the part that I play all the time. So it's considered one of the worst series he's ever done. So every time when he was doing
worse than what was it?
Oh,
the Hotel Tomato thing or whatever.
Oh, no, that's a movie.
This
is the worst
Attack
TV
of the
series.
Okay.
The Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh, that's it.
And he was with my friend, my acting friend Judy Greer. I went to go see a screening of Descendants, and she was there. And at the end, I asked a question in the audience at a Q&A, and George was there. And I said, George, I just want to say, every time you get nominated for an Oscar, and I know you're going to get nominated for this, they show the clip of what they call the worst series ever, which I happen to be in, called Sunset Beat. And every time they show that clip where you couldn't say the word amphetamine, and then they show the back of my head. Now, I know this is not a big deal for you, but for me, I would like my work to be seen. So next time that clip is shown, please tell them to do the reverse. And he said, done. He didn't miss a cue, and he got the laugh.
Oh,
and he
he's
said,
great.
"Nice to see you, Jason." And I thought, wow, you know.
Yeah,
And I think it's because Judy Greer said my name before, but I don't know. But
he's that kind of guy. I gotta say.
Oh, I would write about on the set, and I'd know the lines backwards and forwards. And he said, "Let's just fool around with this," and I'd go, "Oh my god," you know. And that's when I started to do that, and that's when I started to really get good at improvising in movies and TV shows, and it really helped me because the kind of roles that I play usually are underwritten, and it sort of gave me a little bit of a career.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say 50% of the roles that I've played have been improvised to some point.
Nice.
It's just what happens.
He's a great guy. He is who you think he is. He's very generous. He puts, as people can see, puts his money where his mouth is.
Yes,
which
he
I
does.
like. And
he stood up where I'm sure that's cost him.
And it was funny because going into that film, because we worked together, you know, for, like I say, 5 years. I remember the first time I met him, walking in before we shot the pilot to do our little medical training. And
Lily told me about that. It was very hard.
It was the first time I met him. We're walking in. I thought, what a nice guy. And I remember that they were talking about, there was one role that hadn't been cast yet. And they'd had somebody read that they thought was great, but they weren't, the network wasn't into it because they said, we really need a hunk for this. And I think John said, well, we already have a hunk. And I actually remember thinking, who? Not because George wasn't good looking.
because he's such a goofball.
Because he was just such a regular, nice, open guy that you didn't like put him in that.
You didn't feel that way.
Untouchable star sort of. And I realized, oh no, he's tremendously good looking, of course.
When I first saw him, he invited me into his trailer to run lines, and I was like, oh my god!
Oh,
it was a little hard to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, but he completely diffuses that immediately.
Yeah, immediately. So it was just like you're one-on-one with him. And then when I went to work with him as a director, I thought, oh well, I don't know, I've never worked with him as a director, so maybe I should I'm going to give him some space. And sure enough, you know, they dropped me off on set. And he goes, hey, how you doing? It's like right
Same
back
thing.
Where we were.
Now, you've worked for Bochco a lot, and he recently passed. And you got to work on NYPD Blue and also some of his other shows I'm seeing here, and Brooklyn South, which I thought was a really good show.
I got fired from Hill Street Blues.
Did you? And they cast you again?
Yep.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I got fired at the end of the first day.
Why?
Overacting.
Really?
Is what I heard. And I was playing... forget what his occupation was. I think he was a mob guy, a gay mob guy who was coming on to
Albert Lacus?
Bruce White's character.
Bruce White's character.
Oh God!
And I was doing what the director told me to do.
Did John Polito replace you?
Yes.
I'm kidding.
No.
Brilliant actor. Was on one of my first podcasts.
Yeah.
I love him.
John Polito? I thought it was.
I'm really.
Wait. It wasn't John.
Oh, okay. Because that would have been.
No. It wasn't Polito. Sorry, no.
We should have just said yes and lied.
Sorry.
It was the guy who was the cop guy on the detective thing. You know,
around the block near the thing in the back.
Anyway, what he said, he was doing what the director asked him to do, and he was doing that every time.
How many times has that happened to you? It's happened to me. Is you go in for an audition, you do something, you get the job from the producers, especially in television, and then you get there and the director is another person, and it's a completely different character almost sometimes.
No, that wasn't the case.
Oh.
No, it was the director from the get-go.
Well, I just wanted to say, give a thought out to Stephen Bochco. Just brilliant.
Brilliant shows.
I ended up
in
L.A. Law.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, all these shows. Yeah. And now you guys are in a movie that I'm in, supposedly called Stronger Than Pretty.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Is that happening?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I hope so.
I do too. It's a Jarrett, a really young kid that I met through a friend of mine.
And I met him at an AFI thing.
What are we talking about?
Stronger Than Pretty.
This wonderful writer, this guy named Jarrett Martino, who wrote writer, who's producer, creating this project.
Right.
And he's creating this project, and he's just terrific.
Yeah.
He's done some really important work, I think, with letting people tell their stories. That
Well, this is his story it's about spousal abuse.
About his mother. Yes.
Yeah, and there was a short film that was shown at Sundance of this. And
but he also did a piece about bullying. I'm trying to think of the name of it. That was people dealing with telling their stories about coming through difficult times, various people, and it was a really wonderful piece. He does very, really socially important pieces, and so I have big hopes for him.
I hope so too. I hope the movie is a big hit, and I hope it gets to make it. It's sometimes with independent films, it's very hard to get the money and scrape it together, and that's why they say it took us 5 years, but we did it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I got to tell you, I just
that time went by just like
it's almost an hour.
Wow.
I can't wait to see the next thing you guys do together, and I hope you
time
you invite us.
As a matter of fact,
Tell me.
On May 2nd,
yes,
we have a comedy web series called Boomers, which will be on YouTube on May 2nd, I think is when we're premiering it. And it was a big stretch, but we played an old married couple.
Oh my God.
And it's a comedy.
I had to age down in order to play a baby boomer. Just saying.
And it's about, people sort of, I guess, chasing their dreams as older people dealing with aging and not wanting to,
not wanting.
Initially dealing with somebody who's freshly retired, and needs out underfoot, but then it morphs into a whole thing, and then we have a son.
Where can we see it? What's the platform?
It's on YouTube. It will be on YouTube on May 2nd. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Boomers. Do you have one of those cards?
No, I don't.
It doesn't matter. If anybody wants to find
Boomers.
it, just go to jasonstewart.com, STUART.
Boomers, the web series.
Or Boomers, the web series, and I will direct you of where you can go.
And
just send me an email.
It's the first time I've sung on stage a lot, but I think it's the first time I will have ever sung on film.
You sing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
Oh, baby girl, yeah.
You play
all the nurses on ER. They were all musical babes.
Oh wow!
Everybody, all those nurses.
But Yvette was featured because she's such a fabulous singer, Yvette Freeman. And so the rest of us, when we don't have to sing like at Christmas time, we all kind of pretend like we weren't very good singers. Because otherwise, you really don't want to have the Broadway chorus of something.
Too weird.
Because Lily was in the best little whorehouse in Texas.
Yes, she was.
Right? Yeah.
So it's so weird that all the nurses on ER were great singers.
We're singer-dancers.
What a complete... Oh my God!
But it was Chicago Hope that did the musical episode, not ER.
Oh my! You guys, oh God.
And that's why all of those sort of one scenes with the camera following. You see all of these people doing balletic moves because
they were dancers and they were able to do that.
They're all choreographed. Yeah.
Well, brings us full circle. Thank you so much for being on the show. If anybody forgets any of that, just go to jasonstewart.com, STUART, and I will send you in the right direction for these wonderful actors. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Till next time.